Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, we have already covered few SEQs from the topic of legal procedures. Today we'll cover few more SEQs. Now the question is, what type of evidence is admissible in the court of law? Describe it briefly with examples. What type of evidence is admissible or permissible in the court of law? Well, the evidence which is to be admissible in the court of law, it should be relevant to the issue in question, to the legal issue in question, it should be relevant to that. The evidence should be best suited to the legal issue which is under consideration. And third principle is that hearsay evidence is not admitted in the court of law except under certain conditions. For example, if there is a reference from a book, the author of the book may not be able to come to the court. Maybe he is already dead or because of any other reason. Or the document is too big that it cannot be brought to the court. And in case of dying declaration, the person whose evidence is under consideration, he is not in this world. So these are the conditions in which hearsay evidence is permissible in the court of law, otherwise, generally speaking, it is not. Types of evidence. Oral evidence. Oral evidence means any witness who has observed the incident can come to the witness box, take oath, and narrate the whole story, and his evidence is recorded in the court of law. It is called oral evidence. Number 2, documentary evidence. Documentary evidence is of two types: primary documentary evidence and secondary documentary evidence. Primary evidence means the original form, original medical legal report, original postmortem report. And secondary means attested photocopy of that original report or attested typewritten copy of the original report. Third type is direct evidence. Person directly sees the things and they are recorded in the court of law, just like oral evidence. Fourth type is circumstantial evidence. Inferences are made from the findings of circumstantial evidence. Example is, you examine room of a person where his dead body was recovered, and you find a bottle of phenobarbital tablets, and most of the phenobarbital tablets have been consumed from that bottle. So inference is that probably that person took phenobarbital tablets to commit suicide. Similarly, if there is suicidal note present inside the room, it also indicates that the person committed suicide. Hearsay evidence we have already discussed. Generally, hearsay evidence is not admissible in the court of law. It is only admissible under exceptional, under unusual circumstances. For example, dying declaration is a classical example of this. Next type is medical evidence. Examples are medical legal report, post-mortem report, medical certificate, and bed chart of the patient where treatment notes have been written. So these are the types of evidence which are admissible in the court of law. Next question is write note on dying declaration and dying deposition. Dying declaration, as I told you earlier, is a type of hearsay evidence. If the witness is precarious, witness is very serious, death is imminent, it is about to occur, there is no time to arrange for administration of the oath, for a formal deposition being taken, then his evidence must be written down by any credible person. Any credible person can record his evidence in this emergency situation. The most appropriate person under these circumstances is the doctor. It is his public duty, it is his legal duty, it is his moral duty to record dying declaration of such a person. Conditions necessary for its acceptance are: it must be a criminal case of homicide or suicide. Death of the deceased must be the subject of charge. The words used must be those of the deceased himself, and the questions must always be recorded. This is necessary for clarity and for correct interpretation. Even the movements of head, nod of head, gestures, they can also be recorded. The person making the statement, the injured person or sick person who is making the statement, must be actually dying or should be under sincere impression. He should sincerely believe that he is about to die. The presumption of the law is that a person who thinks he is about to die will always speak the truth. He may not speak the truth always, but it is the assumption of law that he will speak the truth. So that is why oath taking is not required in this. Doctor has got an additional duty. Doctor should certify that the victim was mentally fit at the time of recording of statement. If non compos mentis, if he was not mentally fit, then the statement is not considered legally valid in the court of law. Once the dying declaration has been recorded, ideally it should be read over to the person who is dying, and if possible, his signatures should also be taken. After that, the declaration should be sent to the area magistrate, to the concerned magistrate, in a sealed cover, in a sealed envelope. So this is dying declaration. In dying declaration, oath taking is not required. Now, what is dying deposition? It is a statement on oath made by a dying person regarding the circumstances leading to his death. It is made to a magistrate. Magistrate is requested to come to the ward, to the bedside of the patient, to record the statement. And this is done after taking oath, as opposed to dying declaration, where it is not required. Accused and his counsel, his lawyer, may also be present there in the presence of magistrate, and the accused is given opportunity to cross-examine. Doctor's role is to certify that the victim is of sound mind and mentally fit to give a statement. Dying deposition remains valid even if the victim survives, because the person has taken oath, the other party has been given opportunity to cross-examine. So even if the person survives, dying deposition is legally valid, while dying declaration is not legally valid if the person survives. Then the court will like to come that surviving person to come to the court, take oath, and record his evidence once again. So this is the difference between dying deposition and dying declaration. Another SEQ can be, what is an inquest? What are types of inquest? Briefly describe. What is an inquest? Legally speaking, inquest means an inquiry into the cause of death, which apparently is not due to natural reason. When the death is unexpected, unexplained, unnatural, unattended, death occurs under suspicious circumstances, the inquiry which is held is called inquest. Examples are suicidal death, murders, death due to poisoning, sudden natural deaths, deaths in custody of law investigating agency, law enforcing agencies, under custody of police, deaths occurring in institutions like jail, mental hospital, mental asylum, death occurring in a railway train, death occurring in an aeroplane, death occurring in a railway train. So all these deaths have to be inquired. Now, what are types of inquest? There are three types of inquests: police inquest, judicial inquest, which is also called magistrate's inquest, and coroner's inquest. Police inquest, it is most common type of inquest in Pakistan. It is inquiry by a police officer in charge of a police station in any unnatural death. What happens when the death is reported to the police station? The investigating officer, after informing the area magistrate, reaches the scene of incident or scene of crime and performs his legal duties there. What are his legal duties to be performed at the site of incident? He has to make sketch of the situation. He has to prepare injury statement, injuries present on the body of the dead body, and he tries to find apparent cause of death. He also records statements of the eyewitnesses. If after doing all this, he thinks autopsy is required, he makes arrangements that this dead body should be shifted to the nearest authorized autopsy lab for post-mortem examination. So these are his legal duties. This is police inquest. Magistrate's inquest or judicial inquest. It means inquiry conducted by magistrate to ascertain the matters of effect in suspicious deaths. It is commonly held in following cases: death of a convict in the jail, death of a person in police custody, death as a result of police firing. In exhumation cases, court proceedings are done in the graveyard. Magistrate has to go to the graveyard, so exhumation procedure is completed in front of him. This inquest, judicial inquest, is also done in cases which are to be admitted in mental hospital, or those people who die in mental hospital. There is requirement of the law that judicial inquest should be done. Next type is coroner's inquest. Coroner's inquest we have already dealt with in our initial lectures, but I will reproduce here. Coroner's inquest is done in UK and in few states of USA. It is the responsibility of the coroner to make inquiry into the suspicious, into the unnatural deaths. Coroner has the power to call anybody to appear as a witness regarding that particular inquiry. Coroner, after making inquest, fixes the responsibility. If he thinks autopsy is required, he sends the dead body for autopsy examination. After this, he fixes the responsibility, but he cannot award punishment. For the awarding of punishment, the matter is referred to appropriate court. Court or jury has the power to give punishment to the culprits. Coroner's job is only to conduct inquest in cases of unnatural deaths, in cases of suspicious deaths, and it is done in UK and in few states of USA, not in Pakistan. Last time we covered general assumptions of law. At times you get question, what are various general exceptions in law? There are three situations. Person cannot be punished if he has immaturity of mind because of age. A child having immaturity of mind because of age cannot have bad intentions, so he cannot be punished. This has been dealt with in section 82 and 83 of the Pakistan Penal Code. If there is immaturity of mind because of age and person commits a crime, he cannot be punished. Second situation, if the person is insane at the time of commission of crime, he cannot be punished. So this is second exception in law. Third is, if the person has been given some intoxicating agent, some poison, some drug, if under the effect of that drug he commits a crime, he cannot be punished. This is third exception in law. But there is a proviso that this intoxicating agent was not given with his consent. So these are three general exceptions of law: immaturity of mind because of age, insanity, and intoxication. Well, we stop it here. Thank you very much.